I haven't seen that movie in a long time, but I remember loving it.
I saw it 6 times in theaters.
It's when I got my first makeout.
Whoa, stop it.
Titanic.
Have you chosen your eternity?
We're here to talk about Eternity, a movie about, among other things, a love triangle in the afterlife where a woman must choose between a love that she had that was brief but passionate and a lifetime of marriage. And I'm curious, did any of you realize you're making a spiritual sequel to Titanic?
Callum actually brought that up.
Yeah, you
He
did
was
bring
talking
it up.
about, got posed the question, greatest love triangle in film. And he mentioned Titanic. I did not realize that. You Billy Zaned for a second.
Right, so you're putting
Billy Zane.
No, you're talking about Leo and
Well,
the
he's Leo, but I'm
old
saying-
woman that got married. Like, you'd be Leo and you'd be the man we never met when she was old.
I haven't seen that movie in a long time, but I remember loving it.
I saw it 6 times in theaters.
It's when I got my first makeout.
Whoa, stop it.
Titanic. I hope someone says that about Eternity, by the
Yeah,
way.
that's where I got my
That's
first
where your first
makeout.
makeout was watching Eternity.
Watching this 90-year-old.
I'm really hoping I don't get sued by James Cameron, but yeah, I mean, I think that is the question. Like, is she gonna go with Jack, or is she gonna stay with her husband of how many years? And like, I think most of us, unless maybe a few lucky few, most of us have more than one love in our lives at different points. And it doesn't take away from, the love with one person doesn't change or diminish the love you had with somebody else at maybe an earlier point. I think what's been amazing in this, in screening this film is how much people have reflected on their own lives after watching it and discussed their spouses or how much they mean to them or talked about a past relationship. And that's been really lovely to see. We're all human. We all occasionally question, what if we had chosen something else?
I also just wanted to mention that I appreciated that I think you leaned into the 1940s golden age that these characters all lived in and, romanticized. And were you looking to comedies of that era? Because this feels like it could go on a shelf next to Sullivan's Travels or
the best film ever. Yeah, no, absolutely. I think I've always Sturges is a genius and Billy Wilder is my hero, and even Lubitsch, like Heaven Can Wait. So I always aspired to make a film in the spirit of that golden age. I think that's when rom-coms were their best. I think that's when they won Oscars. That's when they dealt with really heavy topics, but with a lightness of touch. You mentioned Sullivan's Travels is set in depression, and it's about joy and it's about love and it's about the importance of laughing. And so I really wanted to hopefully add to that tradition. And even though I think the film feels very contemporary, the spirit is Wilder-esque.
One of the things I really like in this movie is, obviously, for all of your characters, the 1940s is an era where they're very nostalgic. And this movie is part of the appeal not only that you're doing a rom-com, but a rom-com that feels like it could be of the golden age Hollywood era.
Yeah, I mean, it felt like a throwback to the Powell and Pressburger-esque movies that we all love. And what I wanted to do with Luke was, he's at an age where he doesn't yet know who he is yet. He's not become a man. And so he has an idea of what a man is. And these matinee idols like Gary Cooper and Clark Gable, those were his sort of, North Stars of what he wanted to present and who he wanted to be. And he's stuck in a world for 67 years in which you don't evolve. And what does that do to someone? That was really my thing to play with.
And you still look towards Clark Gable as an example.
It's not a bad one, yeah.
Once in the script, you are Montgomery Clift, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I could definitely see this being a very sweet rom-com for a lot of audiences, because I think it offers a vision of a love triangle where there's not necessarily a right answer. And I'm curious for y'all, was it important to have even balance between what could be viewed as a fiery romance versus something that's maybe a little more soft-spoken, a little more practical?
I think that was David's hope. I think David was hoping to show all the different types of loves there are, including Karen's, which is a form of self-love, and or Divine and John's love, could be a more complicated version of a love. But I do know that David spoke into wanting to to tell a story about how many ways that love can be experienced.
How did you develop the different ideas of what eternity could be? I mean, some of them are very obvious, like going to the beach, and then some of them get very specific. Yeah.
Again, feeding into the bureaucracy of this place, the whole design of the junction being this trade floor is that you just need people to choose where to go and go as quickly as possible. So this space does not get clogged up with the newly dead. And so you're just putting things on there that will catch their attention like an advert. It may not be an ideal place to spend eternity, but I think in that days of post dying, you'll just go, oh, I wouldn't mind going to Surf World. You might regret it, but I think that was really important in the design of the space. And I think we obviously would have some ridiculous jokes, which I think I love. But behind each of those jokes, there is a truth. There is something that is kind of essential, whether it be, queer people may not want a world with straight people because they kind of weren't very nice to a lot of us. Or, some people are capitalists and do, think there's no point in being rich if somebody else isn't poor. And I think there is a truth behind each of these things, even though they can be from the ridiculous to the sublime. We kind of let our imaginations go wild when it came to creating those.
Was it your idea to do Weimar Germany, but without the Nazis? Yeah.
That was mine. I think that was one of the first ones I wrote. And that probably is my favorite. And actually shooting those ads, those kind of infomercials, we did that it was the very first thing we shot. And it was probably the funnest day. It really set the tone for the whole shoot. We all just laughed from like medical world where you don't need any kind of degree, or Weimar Germany, or naked or kind of naturist world. It kind of created a bond between me and the crew when doing those. And I think I've said it before, but we shot those on Digibeta. And I'm going to be the Chris Nolan of Digibetas. I want to bring it back. I want to shoot an entire feature on Digibetas. It's just my favorite format.
Well, Miles, another aspect is we were talking a second ago about how you think people might react to this. And do you want this to be a conversation starter for couples that maybe have something to talk about after the movie?
Well, I just think from the experience I've had when we've had these screenings afterwards, just people just want to share things about their own life, whether it's about loved ones or their relationship. I certainly think it is just in its nature very thought-invoking and emotionally invoking as well. I think it's a really beautiful film that kind of gives audiences hopefully everything that they are looking for.
She has two choices. Joan has two choices, and Miles is our hero. But do you want to offer an even-handed consideration of what I think Miles calls a fiery or a sparkling romance, and something that's, let's say, it's a little more practical?
It was really important to me that there is no right or wrong choice for Joan. I think even though the end of this film feels right to me, she could have chosen a different path. Nobody's going to begrudge her either of these choices, whether staying with her current husband that's been with her for so long and has loved her so much, or the life she missed out on. I think you can be Team Larry or you can be Team Luke, but songs were always Team Joan. That was always important to me. And that there is no right or wrong. No matter what happens, one of these people is going to be crushed. And I think that's a huge credit to, I have to say, Callum, who put so much kind of depth into the Luke character, the first love, and really brought out his insecurities. And I think you feel the bond with him and Lizzie so strongly that it does feel even-handed. It does feel like a three-hander. It doesn't feel like there is a right or wrong. And also, it's not a binary choice. She can choose to go with Karen into fake Paris land. She can choose another path. There's an argument that she had her life, she had her two great loves, and now there's an opportunity to do something else. And again, that's perfectly valid. I remember a friend reading the script when I sent it, and he texted me halfway through going, I bet you she's going to choose neither of them. And I love that that's actually something that audiences might question or consider, or even want her to do. I think that's vital.
It's not a competition.
Yes, it is! Sweetheart, it's 100% for sure a competition.
It is, in fact, a competition.
That's literally what we're here for.